What if I told you that more arguments, not fewer, might be the thing that saves America? I spent years in the courtroom listening to people argue, really argue. As a judge here in Tampa, I saw lawyers going head-to-head over high-stakes cases. They had different facts, different law, different arguments, and fiercely different views about what justice requires. But the courtroom is built for that. It's a space where everybody expects to come and make their argument and ultimately reach a conclusion. Now I serve in Congress. The arguments are just as fierce, sometimes more so. But there's some key differences. First of all, when I was a judge in the courtroom, if somebody got out of line, I could hold them in contempt. I cannot do that with my colleagues in Congress, even on the days that I want to. Second, the things that we argue about are different. In the courtroom, it's a particular case, a particular person. And in Congress, we're arguing about the future of our country, about politics. And that gets us to the third key difference. The way that people feel about the argument is different. In the courtroom, everybody expects the parties to present their side. They expect the courtroom to include those different views, and they accept it, they embrace it. In Congress, in the political debate today, many Americans see it differently. They feel like the debate is broken, that we're further apart than we've ever been. And I want to share with you tonight, as someone who's been in the center of the debate for so many years, this perspective, that the debate is not dysfunction. The debate is democracy. It is essential, and it is working exactly as our founding fathers intended. We don't need less debate. We need more of it, the right kind, where people listen to each other and hear each other and work together to reach better conclusions. Now, to be sure, there is a lot about Washington, D.C. that I would like to fix. Everything from the special interests to the bureaucracy to the elevators. There are a lot of things on Capitol Hill that are broken. But there are things today that our founding fathers could never have even imagined. They couldn't have imagined a congressional hearing going viral on TikTok. They couldn't have imagined social media and how that changed the way we communicate. But one thing that they did anticipate, and in fact built into the very foundation of our government, is the concept of debate. So, these two gentlemen probably look familiar to you. It's Hamilton and Jefferson, who famously disagreed about everything from the structure of government to banking to how we should interpret the Constitution. Yet they both were so foundational, their ideas, their thoughts, to our country and the way that it is built. They didn't avoid debate. They didn't seek unity of thought. In fact, they designed a system that would bring all of these different voices together. When I was here in Tampa, most of my close colleagues lived within 20 or 30 miles of where we all sit here together tonight. Today in Congress, it's completely different. My closest colleagues are from all over the country. A college professor from Louisiana, a dairy farmer from California, a lawyer from New York. We couldn't be more different. The places we represent couldn't be more diverse. Even our accents are different. But together, when we work together and talk with each other, it doesn't create a weakness. It makes us stronger. Now, I know that this is not easy. And I'll tell you something interesting about Congress. We all gravitate toward people that we already agree with. That's the easier thing to do. To spend time with and talk to people we already know who think the same way we do. So when I first got elected to Congress and I went up, this is a picture of the floor of the House of Representatives. This is where we go to vote and where we go to debate. And I thought I would have an assigned seat, that I would go into this room and there would be a place specifically for me, probably in the back because I was new. And what I learned is that the opposite is true. There are no assigned seats. Yet when we get there, Democrats sit on one side of that center aisle, Republicans sit on the other, and even within those two sides, so often we cluster in smaller groups, by caucus, by interest, by region, by state. In a room where we can sit anywhere, most of us sit in the same place every day. It is like a high school cafeteria. I do have a place I typically sit to with people that I like to talk to. We all do it. And so the question for us then is, how do we fight against that? Because it's not just Congress. We've all separated ourselves into our own aisles. Time with people we know, ideas we already agree with. You know, another way this manifests for us is how we get information today. Our news feeds that send us the stories we already have seen or we want to see again, that echo viewpoints that we already agree with. So we have to work at it, and I think we can get there. 3 steps. First, stay curious. Think about who you have in your life that maybe has a different background or an idea or perspective than you do. Not to give up your beliefs, but to accept a little bit more of the picture, to approach a problem a little bit more informed. I shared about my colleagues that I listen to. Who is in your life that's that way? Someone you respect and admire who could be a good collaborator for you. The second is ask questions, real questions. Not to trap somebody, not to prove somebody wrong, but to genuinely listen. To hear not just what they think, but why. Nobody ever learns something in a shouting match, but we do in conversation when we hear from other people who have something to say. And finally, third, stay at the table. When the conversation gets difficult or the debate gets hard, that's when it's the most important to stay. Those are the conversations that we need to be having, the conversations that will ensure that together, we're finding the right way forward. I believe that we can and should do this. Now, a word about what it doesn't mean. Chaos for the sake of chaos. So you can tell the difference between people who are looking for a headline and people who are looking to have a conversation. And the best debates, the best discussions happen when there isn't a television camera and there isn't a big audience. When there are people genuinely in good faith together trying to hear each other and understand a little bit more about what the other one thinks. Now, we are never going to all agree about everything. I understand that, and that is not the goal. And I wouldn't ask anyone to give up a conviction, a principle. I know I haven't. But what I am asking is that we think about disagreement differently. Not as a failure, not as a problem, but as the opportunity, as the very way that we can get to the best outcomes. So when the debate gets difficult and the conversation gets hard, don't walk away. Just like in the courtroom, where those arguments lead us to the right verdict and lead us to the right outcome. That's how we get there. That is not dysfunction. That is democracy doing its job. And your job is to stay in it. Thank you.